I was finishing up reviewing the last details of an important project at the office when my cell phone vibrated. It was a call from Mark, a longtime friend. I thought it was strange, since he rarely called during office hours. I answered with a smile, hoping it was just a casual conversation to ease the stress of work. "Hi, Mark. What's wrong?" I asked, trying to hide the concern that was beginning to emerge. "John, I need to tell you something. It's about Emily," he said, hesitantly. My heart skipped a beat. "What's wrong with Emily? Is everything okay with her?" There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Mark took a deep breath and said, "Paul and I saw her going into a motel with another guy." The world seemed to stop. I felt as if the ground had been ripped out from under my feet. "You must be mistaken, Mark. Are you sure it was her?" "John, I wish I was wrong, but we saw her clearly. She was with that guy, Michael." "Michael, my best friend." I felt a knot form in my stomach. Anger and sadness mixed together, creating a storm of emotions inside me. I thanked Mark for the call and hung up, not knowing what to do next. For a few minutes, I was paralyzed, staring into space. So, on impulse, I picked up my cell phone and typed a message to Emily. "I know everything. The marriage is over." I sent it before I could change my mind. Minutes later, my cell phone vibrated again. It was a message from Emily. "John, what are you talking about? I don't understand." My anger increased. How could she pretend? I typed another, more direct message. "You and Michael. I know you're together. Don't come home." I put the cell phone aside, trying to control my breathing. My head spun with images and memories. Every moment of affection, every promise made, everything seemed like a lie now. I got up from my chair and started pacing around the office, unable to concentrate on anything. Somewhere, far away, Emily was with Michael. I thought about all the times I trusted him, shared secrets and important moments in my life. Their betrayal was a double whammy, something I would never have imagined. As I tried to process the situation, my cell phone rang again. It was Emily. I was reluctant, but I answered. "John, can we please talk? It's not what you think." "Isn't that what I'm thinking?" I repeated in disbelief. "I know exactly what's going on. You betrayed me." "John, listen to me, please," she began, but I interrupted her. "There's nothing to listen to, Emily. You made your choice. The marriage is over." She started crying on the other end of the line, but I couldn't feel sorry. The pain she had caused was very deep. I hung up before she could say anything else and threw the phone on the table. I sat down again, trying to regain control. Anger was still pulsing through my veins, but I knew I needed to think clearly. I needed to understand how this had happened. In recent months, have there been signs that I ignored? Small details that now made sense? As these questions arose, one thing was certain. My life would never be the same. And the story was far from over. He was sitting on the sofa in the living room, his head throbbing with a whirlwind of thoughts. The message I had sent Emily was still on my phone, and anger was bubbling inside me like a volcano about to erupt. How could she do this to me? With us? I couldn't understand. I began to remember the last few months, every little sign I had ignored, every moment that now made sense in this devastating new light. I remember when Emily started coming home later, always with an excuse on the tip of her tongue. "Teacher's meeting," she said, or "school planning meetings." At first, I believed it without question. Why would I doubt it? She was always so dedicated to her work, an exemplary teacher. But after a while, the delays became more frequent and the excuses more lame. I should have known. Last Friday, for example, she arrived home with her hair a little messy and a strange smile on her lips. "Sorry I'm late, love." "The meeting went on longer than expected," she said, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. I wanted to believe it, but something inside me screamed that something was wrong. "It's okay, Em. I was just worried," I replied, trying to hide the suspicion that was beginning to grow. Now, everything made sense. The revelation that she was with Michael, my best friend, was a punch in the gut. Michael, of all people. I never imagined he was capable of something like this. The pain of betrayal was unbearable. Suddenly, my cell phone vibrated. It was a message from Emily. "John, please don't do anything rash. Let's talk," the message said. I felt a mix of anger and sadness reading that. How did she have the courage to ask to talk after everything? I took a deep breath and replied, "Don't come home, Emily. I need some time to think." Across town, Emily was leaving the motel with Michael. She looked visibly shaken, her face pale and her eyes wide with panic. Michael tried to grab her arm, but she broke free. "Emily, calm down. Let's solve this together," he said, trying to calm her down. "How can you say that, Michael? He knows everything. Don't you understand? Our world has fallen apart," she replied, almost in tears. "Then let's go. We can run away together, start over somewhere else," Michael suggested, trying to sound hopeful. But Emily shook her head, undecided. She was worried about the consequences, about what would come next. "I don't know, Michael. I don't know if I'm ready for this," she said, her voice shaking. Emily knew that the decision she made now would change their lives forever. She looked at Michael, trying to find some reassurance in his words, but everything seemed uncertain. "I need to think. I need some time," she said finally, pulling away from him. Meanwhile, I was at home, trying to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. Every little detail, every suspicious moment, came back to me with painful clarity. Emily's message, asking to talk, only increased my confusion. How could she do this to me? With us? I sat on the couch, eyes fixed on my cell phone, hoping, perhaps, that a magical answer would appear. But all I felt was an immense emptiness. The pain of betrayal, not just from Emily but also from Michael, was unbearable. I knew nothing would be the same as before. And at that moment, I realized that I needed to make a decision that would change our lives forever. The day after that devastating message, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. I could barely think straight, but I knew I needed to find Michael, my best friend, and confront him. The idea that he, of all people, could be involved with Emily was simply unbearable. What hurt me most was the double betrayal, from the woman I loved and the friend I trusted blindly. I drove to Michael's office, my heart pounding in my chest. He greeted me with a smile that quickly faded when he saw my expression. "John, what's going on? You look like a hurricane about to destroy everything in its path," he said, trying to remain lighthearted. "Michael, we need to talk." "Now," I said, my voice firm, with no room for evasions. He closed the office door and sat down, looking uncomfortable. "What's this about?" he asked, but I could see in his eyes that he already knew. "You and Emily," I replied, feeling the anger and pain boil over. "I know about you too." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael lowered his head, unable to look at me. "John, I don't know what to say. I never wanted this to happen." "You never wanted this to happen? How can you say that? You knew exactly what you were doing." I shouted, unable to contain my fury. "You were my best friend, Michael. How could you betray my trust like that?" He tried to justify himself, stuttering. "John, I'm so sorry. It was a weak moment. Emily was feeling alone, and so was I." "Weakness? Is that all you have to say?" I retorted, my voice full of contempt. "You destroyed my marriage, my life, and all you can say is that it was a moment of weakness?" Michael stood up from his chair, finally looking at me. "Look, John, I know nothing I say is going to make this right. I know I messed up, but please try to understand. We were lost." "Lost? Lost? You were lost in my house with my wife while I was working to support us," I shouted, feeling my voice shaking with anger. "I never want to see you again, Michael. Never again." He was silent, and I left his office, feeling as if a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders, but at the same time, an unbearable pain remained. When I returned home, I found Emily in the hallway, packing her things. She looked at me with her eyes red from crying. "John, please, can we talk?" she begged, her voice weak. "There's nothing to talk about, Emily. You made your choice," I replied coldly. "I know I messed up, but I love you, John. I never wanted to hurt you like this," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Love? You call that love?" I replied, feeling the bitterness in every word. "You cheated on me with my best friend. How can you talk about love?" She came closer, trying to touch my arm, but I moved away. "John, Please let me explain. I was feeling so alone. You were always busy, always distant. I didn't know how to reach you anymore. Don't try to blame it on me, Emily. I was busy working for us. For our future, I said, feeling the pain and anger mix again. I know, and I'm sorry. But please don't kick me out like that. We can try to work this out, she pleaded. Settle? There's nothing to settle. Our marriage is over, Emily. It ended the moment you decided to betray my trust, I declared, feeling a strange sense of relief as I said those words. She collapsed to the floor, crying. I turned, without looking back, and left the house. I needed air, space, time to absorb everything that had happened. My world had fallen apart, but I knew that somehow I would need to find a way to rebuild it. When Emily walked through the door of our house, her look was full of guilt and despair. I was standing in the middle of the living room, trying to stay calm, but my heart was beating wildly in my chest. Betrayal was a poison that spread throughout my body, making me weaker by the second. John, please listen to me, she began, her voice shaking. I can explain everything. Explain what, Emily? I snapped, anger showing in every word. Explain how you destroyed our marriage, how you lied and cheated on me with my best friend. What is there to explain? She took a step forward, her eyes watering. I felt so alone, John. You were always so busy with work, with your projects. I needed someone to pay attention to me. So you decided the best way to deal with this was to sleep with Michael? My best friend, Emily? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You haven't even tried to talk to me, try to work this out together? Emily lowered her head, tears streaming down her face. I tried, but you were never available. Every time I wanted to talk, you were in a meeting or focused on some project. I felt invisible. The pain in his eyes was palpable, but I couldn't empathize. Invisible? And you think I didn't feel the same way? You think that working tirelessly wasn't a way of trying to keep everything going, of trying to build a future for ourselves? She shook her head, unable to respond. The room was charged with tension, each second more suffocating than the last. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, in the firmest voice I could find, I've already consulted a lawyer. I'm going to file for divorce immediately. Emily gasped, as if I'd punched her in the stomach. John, please don't do this. We can get through this. I know we messed up, but we can try to make it right. There's nothing left to fix, Emily, I replied coldly. You have destroyed our trust, and without that, no marriage can survive. She took a step back, as if my words had hit her physically. I'm leaving, he said, his voice barely audible. But know that I never wanted to hurt you, John. I still love you. Watching her walk out the door, crying, was like watching a movie in slow motion. Each tear of hers seemed to weigh tons on my heart, but I knew there was no going back. The betrayal was too deep to be forgiven. When the door closed behind Emily, the silence in the house was deafening. I sat on the couch, head in my hands, trying to process everything. The image of Emily and Michael together, the broken trust, the uncertain future. Everything was mixed together in a whirlwind of emotions that seemed to suffocate. Night fell, and even so, I couldn't find peace. Emily's betrayal was an open wound, and I knew it would take a long time to heal. But at that moment, all I could do was try to breathe and deal with the pain one day at a time. Loneliness was a new companion, and the silence in the house seemed to mock my situation. However, I was determined to move forward, even if it meant starting from scratch. Emily had made her choice, and now I needed to make mine. The days following our separation were a blur of emotions. I felt like I was floating in a thick fog, unable to find a firm spot to hold on to. The silence of the house, once a haven of peace after stressful days at work, now felt like a suffocating prison. Emily's absence was a deafening scream in the empty hallways and untidy rooms. I decided I needed to get busy. I immersed myself in work with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Designing buildings had always been a passion for me, a way of transforming chaos into order, but now it was more than that. It was an escape. However, no matter how hard I tried to concentrate, Emily's memories continued to haunt me. Every corner of the house, every object, seemed filled with memories of our time together. One morning, While reviewing floor plans in my office, the phone rang. I hesitated when I saw Emily's name on the screen, but answered, hoping it was just a practical question about the divorce. John, Her voice was shaking, and I could hear the pain and confusion in every syllable. I don't know where to start, but I need to talk to you. Emily, I've said everything I have to say. There's nothing left to discuss, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady, but feeling a lump forming in my throat. Please just listen to me. It's about Michael. The mention of his name made my blood boil. What about him? I don't care about anything related to him anymore. He cheated on me too, John. He was cheating on me with another woman. The revelation took me by surprise. A part of me felt a small satisfaction knowing that he had betrayed her too, but another part, a part that still cared about Emily, felt a pang in my heart. Are you telling me that Michael, the man you destroyed our marriage for, was also cheating on you? I asked, trying to process the information. Yes, she replied, her voice breaking. I feel so stupid, so used. You have no idea what it's like to find out that the person you trusted was also lying to you. I think I have an idea, I replied, with a hint of bitterness that I couldn't hide. There was a moment of silence, then she continued. John, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you in ways I can never fix. But I wanted you to know that no matter how much I walked away, a part of me will always regret what I did. Emily, regret doesn't change what happened. It doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't rebuild broken trust. I'm trying to move on, and you should do the same. She sighed on the other end of the line. I know, and I will. I just wanted you to know that, despite everything, I never wanted to hurt you. I hung up the phone, feeling a mix of emotions. As much as I wanted to hate her, part of me still cared. But I knew I needed to move on. Days later, while trying to focus on a new project, I received a message from an unknown number. It was from Emily, saying she needed to talk urgently. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet her at a cafe in town. When I arrived, she was already sitting, with a worried look on her face. John, thanks for coming. I found out something about Michael that you need to know. Emily, I don't want to know anything about him anymore. Our story is over, and I want to move on. Please just listen to me. This is important. I discovered that Michael was using your confidential information to benefit his own career. The revelation hit me like a punch in the gut. What? What do you mean? He used details of his projects to promote himself. I have proof. I thought you should know. I remained silent, processing the double betrayal. Emily, if that's true, he's going to pay for it. She nodded, looking relieved. I just wanted to do the right thing. I hope this helps you move forward. I left the cafe with a mix of anger and determination. Emily had given me the key to exposing Michael and finally closing this painful chapter in my life. I was sitting in the living room, trying to focus on a new architectural project, when my cell phone vibrated. I looked at the screen and saw a message from Emily. We need to talk urgently. My heart raced, and a mixture of anger and curiosity took over me. What more could she want after everything that happened? I took a deep breath and replied, I'm home. You can come now. About half an hour later, I heard the sound of the doorbell. I opened the door and there was Emily, with an expression that mixed desperation and determination. I let her in without saying a word. We sat on the sofa, facing each other. The silence was almost palpable. John, I know you don't want to see me, but this is important. It's about Michael, she began, her voice shaking. I don't want to hear anything more about him, I replied, trying to remain calm. He's already done enough damage. Please, just listen to me, Emily insisted, her eyes glistening with tears ready to fall. Michael was using your confidential information to benefit his own career. I have proof. That caught me off guard. What do you mean, using my information? She pulled a flash drive out of her pocket and placed it on the table. I found this on his laptop. They're your projects, ideas you've shared with him over the years. He was stealing your work, John. And worse, he used this information to get you the promotion you should have received. I picked up the flash drive with shaking hands and connected it to my laptop. I opened the files and started reading. My heart sank as the truth unfolded before me. There were my projects, my ideas, everything being presented as if they were Michael's. I don't believe this, I muttered, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. He was my best friend. I know, Emily said, her voice full of remorse. And that's why I needed to tell you. I know I betrayed you in many ways, but this is something you need to work through. I took a deep breath, trying to absorb everything. Why are you telling me this now? What's in it for you? I get nothing, she replied, with sincerity in her eyes. I just couldn't let him get away with it. I already lost you, but I can't let him destroy your career too. I looked at her, realizing the seriousness of her words. Maybe it was her last attempt at redemption, a way of trying to do something right after so much chaos. Thanks for telling me, he said finally, but that doesn't change anything between us. I know, she replied, lowering her head. I just want you to know. We said goodbye in silence. After she left, I called my lawyer and explained the situation. He advised me to gather all the evidence and schedule a meeting with the company's management. 2 days later, he was sitting in the boardroom with the directors, presenting the evidence against Michael. Their expressions changed from surprise to outrage as I detailed the professional betrayal. This is unacceptable, said the Director General, rising from his chair. Michael will be fired immediately, and we will take necessary legal action. I felt relief mixed with sadness. Michael, my best friend, had revealed himself to be a traitor in every way possible. But at least now he would face the consequences of his actions. When I left the meeting, I got a text from Emily. I hope everything went well. I wish you the best. I responded with a simple thank you. I knew that, despite everything, I needed to move on. Emily and I had found emotional closure. Our lives would take different paths, but at least this painful part of our story was coming to an end. I walked to the park near the office and sat on a bench, watching the leaves fall from the trees. Maybe it would be a new beginning for both of them, a peaceful start, even if they were separated.